And thank you, everyone, for coming to this presentation. I am Newton Grant, as mentioned, VP at Defy Media, one of the largest digital content creators in the United States. And for many of you, you may have some pretty large ambitions for your game, not just in Asia, but also in the United States and globally as well. So hopefully from this presentation, you will get a kind of a good sense of the digital media diet of American millennials so that you can effectively craft marketing campaigns to target them should you choose to expand in the US. Now, last year I gave a presentation here called Constant Content, which basically detailed how the media habits in general were evolving from more of a television-based media diet to a more digital-based media diet with more hours being spent watching video from digital sources. This year we wanted to dig in a little deeper and kind of understand how media, digital media in particular, was being consumed throughout the day and whether or not advertising had particular impacts on different platforms, as well as understanding the differences between digital and terrestrial, free and paid, and old and new formats. So first, a quick note about our methodology. We believe in a qualitative then quantitative approach because that approach allows us to learn things that we didn't know and didn't expect, as opposed to crafting a study that just validates information that we already knew. So for our research, we first started off with a group of 54 13 to 24-year-olds and had them fill out basically a journal of their digital media habits over a 2-week period, as well as capturing any thoughts and opinions they had on the videos that they were watching. Based on that, we then did in-person interviews with a smaller group of 27, asking follow-up questions and recording these interviews on video to kind of understand some of the nuances that may have been not captured in the journal entries. And then based on the interviews and the journal entries, we then crafted an online study reaching 1,300 13 to 24-year-olds, balanced between ages, the sexes, as well as ethnicity, race, and parental education, so that this group would be widely representative of American millennials between those ages of 13 to 24. And as I mentioned, we did these interviews and recorded these interviews on video for posterity, of course, but also to give you kind of a sense of what these millennials are like. Now, kind of to understand where youth are in terms of their digital media consumption, we found basically the following trends. That by far, mobile devices and PCs are the primary way that millennials, 13 to 24, are consuming video content of any kind, outpacing television, which is now at 62%. Tablets are in fourth place at 45%. Now, what was pretty interesting about the research that we uncovered is that 38% of millennials are living in households now that do not have a cable or satellite box. So that number is pretty huge and will increase over time as more and more folks opt to not pay for television. Now, part of that is because today's millennials have a wide range of sources, video sources, to choose from. And basically, this is how it broke out, with the top choice in aggregate being consuming video on social media platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like Twitter, followed thereafter by YouTube. So this pretty much conforms with the observations that we had last year, where social media was the top way of content discovery for millennials. And basically, this means that social media platforms like Facebook are essentially becoming like curated video channels for 13 to 24-year-olds. So looking a little deeper within that age range of 13 to 24, we found that over time, people are watching less television as they get older, less regular television. On the flip side, the viewership of paid digital subscription services like Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon actually increases as you go from 13 to 24 years old. And then consistent throughout the entire period is the consumption of free digital video content. So we found that to be pretty consistent. So when it comes to videos consumed on social media platforms, one of the questions that folks had is whether or not folks are just watching videos that were made by friends and family and then posted to Facebook. So this was a specific question that we put to the panelists, and what we found was that only 15% of the audience, millennials, are watching specifically or primarily content created by friends or family on social media. By and large, the majority of what they were consuming on social media regarding videos were things created by digital celebrities or traditional celebrities, music stars, videos made by brands, or simply videos made by people that they didn't know on a personal level. So again, kind of reinforcing the fact that now social media platforms are becoming essentially curated channels in their own right. So when it came to television and paid TV, one of the things we wanted to understand was whether or not it was an issue of affordability, including for folks that have independent financial means. So in this particular case, as an example, we had Matt, who is a high school football coach, and he's currently living with his parents, saving up money to go out, strike out on his own. And one of the habits that he has when consuming media is watching football on television with his dad. But when we asked him whether or not he would pay for television, regular television, in order to continue watching football, he said no, that he would not do that. That instead, he would pay for a digital subscription service on NFL.com in order to keep up with all of the football games, and that was good enough for him. So what we're finding is that the millennials are seeing more value in content that they can see digitally and distributed digitally than for similarly, quality content that they would otherwise get on regular traditional television. So last year also folks were skeptical as to whether or not millennials are willing to pay for digital content, digital videos in particular. And what we found is that they are indeed willing to pay. From the ages, again, of 13 to 24, we found that 47% in aggregate were willing to pay all or part of the subscription costs of the various digital distribution channels, such as Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, so forth. 10% were, quote unquote, borrowing passwords from friends in order to watch anything on the paid service. And then the remaining balance, of course, was just households where the parents were paying in full. But this clearly shows that millennials are willing to pay for digital video content in the form of subscriptions and other ways. Now, when it comes for the devices where they're consuming videos, we see a very clear split between the top two sources, being mobile and laptops. Mobile is the platform of choice when consuming anything on short-form video formats. So for example, YouTube videos or videos on social media platforms or Vines and things of that nature. PCs become the primary method right now of consuming longer form video content. But AOL did a study last year that found that convenience is the overriding concern when it comes to consuming video content at all, and that enjoyment of that content is only marginally impacted by the smaller screen size. So what this tells us between this information and some of the research that AOL did is that over time, more and more folks are going to start consuming even long-form content on mobile devices, despite that smaller screen size. But again, PC as being a source of watching long-form content will still remain popular, again, convenience of being able to access that content aloud. So going on to how they're consuming content throughout the day. And what we found is that millennials are really watching videos, digital videos, at all times of the day. And again, this is due in part to the fact that they can access videos on demand on their mobile devices 24/7, essentially. There are some spikes, after they get back from work or from school, and again after dinner, in terms of being able to consume that digital content. But by and large, basically, whenever they have the smartphone and have a few minutes to kill, they're going to jump on it and watch some videos. Now, as between long-form content and short-form content, what we found is that the audience is much more willing to watch short-form content at any time of the day, such as videos on social media or on YouTube, whereas long-form content, whether on Netflix or regular TV, that stuff is generally relegated to the evening, again, after they get home from work or from school or after dinner. So this, for those who are trying to advertise particular, games, products, services, this is actually great information because videos and programs that specifically target on social media or on YouTube, those have no cost barrier to entry for the actual viewers. They're free and they can be accessed 24/7 on mobile devices by your target audience. So this is, and for many of you developing mobile games, the fact that they're viewing these videos on mobile devices is an extra benefit. Now, something we wanted to know was whether the videos that they were watching were just purely for entertainment value, or if they were fulfilling another need, a psychological need or something else, within the target audience. And what we found is that consuming these videos actually did have a very specific need. The top reason to watch videos is just to kill boredom. They might be at school, I guess sadly in some cases, or at work and have a few minutes to kill. They're bored. They want to do something really quick to just get rid of that boredom, so they'll pop out their mobile phone, watch a video. Or I guess in some cases play a mobile game. But the other reasons were actually pretty interesting. Keeping up to date with the latest videos on YouTube and on social media had a certain sense of social currency for the millennials. In other words, watching the videos and then going to their friends and being able to talk about the funny videos that they just watched was really the way that they like to interact with each other, or at least get conversations started. And that if they weren't up to date on the latest videos, then it made their ability to socialize with their friends harder. So that's the other clear need that they had for watching these videos besides trying to kill boredom. Taking it a step further, we asked the millennials what were the sources of video that they absolutely could not live without. And this, in aggregate, was the list that came up. So 67% of millennials, 13 to 24-year-olds, absolutely feel they cannot live without YouTube. 51% feel that they cannot live without Netflix. And then in aggregate, 48% feel that they can't live without being able to watch videos on the various social media platforms. As you can see, TV came in a distant fourth. So again, digital has overtaken TV in terms of where consumers are, in this case, 13 to 24-year-old millennials, are consuming the content that they like. Now, what does that mean for advertisers, particularly folks that are trying to market mobile games? So what we found was that millennials don't like advertising any more than adults do. And in fact, 52% of the audience are using ad blockers on at least one of the platforms on which they consume video, which means, of course, that they are not seeing, that 52% won't be seeing the ads for your games. So, however, there was an interesting twist to this, and that is that in the minds of millennials, they did see a difference between ads and, in their words, commercials. Commercials to them fulfilled one of those needs that we talked about earlier. To them, something that was a, quote, commercial entertained them or made them feel good about themselves, whereas ads were something that just got in the way of them getting to the videos that they wanted to see. Another thing that was interesting that we noted was that when it came to campaigns, marketing campaigns in and around the digital celebrities that they liked, they were actually far more receptive to that because these kids are savvy. They know that digital celebrities being able to create the content that they like to watch depend on revenue, and that revenue is made, of course, by advertising. So they're much more open to the fact of a YouTube celebrity, for example, having some sort of sponsored video, as long as it's clear that it is in keeping with the whole attitude and voice of that particular celebrity and channel. So taking it a step further, we wanted to understand what were the advertising formats that millennials were most receptive to, as well as the advertising formats that they were least receptive to. And what we found was that the formats that they liked best were things that were integrated in and around the content that they were consuming that did not slow down their ability to get to that video. So, you know, intros, outros, product placements in the videos, those things were acceptable to millennials. Now, there is a very important note here, and that is that the integrations and the celebrities that are doing these sponsored videos have to be open and transparent that the video is indeed being sponsored. And the way the sponsorship is executed has to be authentic, in keeping with the attitude, the voice, the personality of that digital celebrity. Because millennials will know if the celebrity doesn't believe what they're saying. And they'll just kind of pick up on that because they're fans of these guys. They're following them day in, day out, week after week. So if it comes off on as inauthentic, the audience will know. So as a quick vignette, as an example of that, there was a food brand that was approached us in order to promote a meat product on one of our channels, you know, the Smosh channel, featuring Anthony. Now, the thing about this is that Anthony is a vegan. And not only is he a vegan, his fans know that he's a vegan. So we had to, you know, let that brand know that, you know, this really isn't a fit because the digital celebrity you're reaching out to is a vegan, and so it doesn't make sense to do a meat integration into this video. So just something to keep in mind with respect to that. So in summary, you know, you have to understand that in the US in particular, mobile and PC are now the primary two modes or devices on which millennials are consuming all digital content, overtaking easily television. The next thing is that as far as platforms go, consuming videos on social media in their organic video players, as well as on YouTube, are the primary two ways for short-form content on digitally, and for long-form content, sources like Netflix and Hulu and such. And then lastly, when it comes to advertising on these digital video platforms, you want to be able to stay away from things that would be perceived as, quote, ads that just get in the way of fans consuming the content that they want to watch, versus giving them something that are commercials, which again, in their mind, are promotional videos that entertain them or help them feel good about themselves. So that's the difference in the mind of millennials when it comes to that. So thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have.
Hi, my name's Kane. I own a short-form video platform.
Okay.
We are approaching our first birthday here next month, and we do not monetize at all right now. Our videos are around 40 seconds long, and we are considering our future in terms of monetization. So I'm interested to learn more about like what ads work in this kind of unique situation, it doesn't make sense to run a 30-second ad for a 30-second video.
Right.
I think that's going to irritate the generation. So what would you suggest in that vein? And do you see more ad platforms trying to cater to that fact? For example, doing like really short form ads?
Wow. So you're approaching it more from the platform end as opposed to the content creators end. So that one is a little tough. You could potentially try to focus on having a player that has an advertisement, for example, on the margins, not necessarily interfering with the speed at which the user gets to the video that they want to watch. Again, precisely because of the fact that the videos that you are doing are basically extended vines at 40 seconds as opposed to 6 seconds. So not interfering with the speed at which they get to that video will be pretty critical to you. So I would probably, suggest focusing on how you would potentially display advertising on the margins of the player in some way, because that doesn't interfere with the content itself or how quick folks get to the content. Now, the content creators themselves, of course, could totally do something on a sponsored basis within the video itself to get a sponsor's message out while also entertaining their fans. Whatever business terms you might have with content creators, that might be something separate. Of course, I couldn't necessarily speak to that, but those are the two ways just off the top of my head that I could envision something like this.
Cool. Thank you.